14-day compulsory quarantine for Malaysians returning from overseas. Ramadan bazaars set up to be reviewed due to COVID-19. Hello and good evening. You're watching News on 2 with me, Muhammad Amin. Well, Malaysia has recorded 140 new cases of COVID-19 as at noon today, bringing the tally of cases to 2,766. Well, according to Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, 58 more patients, however, have been discharged with a total recovery so far at 537. Well, Dr. Noor Hisham also announced that 6 more patients died in the past 24 hours, bringing the total of COVID-19 deaths in Malaysia to 43.
Ini yang dilaporkan ke CPRC Kebangsaan, duka cita dimaklumkan bahawa sehingga kini terdapat pertambahan 6 kes kematian berkaitan dengan COVID-19. Justru jumlah kumulatif kes kematian COVID-19 di Malaysia adalah sebanyak 43 kes dengan kadar kematian 1.55% daripada jumlah keseluruhan kes.
Dr. Noor Hisham noted that the highest number of positive cases involved 2 age groups, 26 to 30 and 56 to 60. The Health Director General added that currently a total of 94 patients were being treated in the intensive care unit ICU, with 60 of them placed under ventilator support. Well, the Quarantine and Treatment Centre for Low-Risk COVID-19 patients at the Malaysia Agro Exposition Park Serdang or MIPES is at the final stage of completion. Now, the centre was set up to prepare for any possibility of a drastic surge in COVID-19 infections. The centre has the capacity to place up to 600 patients at any one time and will be coordinated by NADMA with the cooperation of the Ministry of Health, the Armed Forces, the Fire and Rescue Department, the Civil Defence Force, the Social Welfare Department and the Public Works Department. Among others, it will provide clinical services, COVID-19 wards, resuscitation areas to stabilise patients during emergencies, as well as ambulance, pharmacy and pathology laboratory services. Facilities for patients include beds, tables and chairs, lockers, television, lounges, Wi-Fi access, computers, surrounds, closed-circuit television, CCTVs, toilets and baths, changing rooms and rest areas. For those on duty, there are nurse stations, treatment and resuscitation rooms, rest areas, changing rooms and baths, including for the donning and doffing of personal protective equipment or PPEs, as well as meeting and seminar rooms.
Dia umpama satu buah hospital yang di-convert dalam masa 3 hari. Seperti Wuhan, dia terpaksa banner the whole set of building, they place all the equipment. Tapi di sini kita dah ada bangunan yang sudah ada, yang pun di-banner oleh Tan Sri Muhyiddin zaman dia jadi Menteri Pertanian. He mooted the idea, supaya mana-mana kes yang kita boleh dia boleh step down care dilaksanakan.
Well, beginning 3rd April, Malaysians returning from abroad will be brought by the authorities straight to quarantine centres from the airport to undergo their compulsory 14-day quarantine at designated centres. Now, at his daily COVID-19 press conference in Putrajaya Jaya today, Senior Minister Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the new procedure will begin for any Malaysian returning from overseas, regardless of whether their flight was a chartered or commercial one, to prevent the risk of spreading COVID-19.
Sesampai saja mereka di lapangan terbang, mereka akan dibawa terus dengan menggunakan bas ke pusat-pusat kuarantin yang disediakan. Sewaktu berada di pusat kuarantin, mereka akan disaring oleh Kementerian Kesihatan untuk melihat status kesihatan mereka dan dalam masa yang sama juga SOP yang lain yang ditetapkan oleh MKN dan juga KKM perlu dipatuhi oleh semua rakyat kita yang berada di pusat-pusat kuarantin tersebut.
Dato Sri Ismail Sabri further advised all family members not to travel to the airport to welcome their child, parent or relatives home because they will be sent straight to quarantine centres. Well, meanwhile, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said the Federal Agricultural Marketing Authority, FAMA, will set up markets for fresh and wet goods nationwide so as to overcome the problem of congestion and crowds at wet markets during the ongoing extended movement control order.
FAMA akan mewujudkan pusat jualan barangan segar terkawal di 77 lokasi yang iaitu di setiap negeri. Dan antara barangannya hanyalah barangan basah semata-mata. Tidak ada lagi, kalau dulu pasar tani ada pakaian, menjual makanan dan sebagainya. Kali ini hanya menumpukan kepada pasar barang-barang basah semata-mata seperti ikan, sayur dan sebagainya.
He also said the markets will also be open in 17 pharma operations centres throughout the country, 3 My Farm outlets, including the one in Putrajaya, 24 farmers organisation area complexes, as well as in suitable government department or agency complexes. As with existing wet markets, strict standard operating procedures will be in place to stem the spread of COVID-19, including appropriate social distancing and spacing between the stalls by at least 1 metre apart. The minister added that Pharma will also sell its products online during this period and encourage the public to buy from them. On another note, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said rental for shops and highway stops will be waived for the next 6 months to lighten their burden in the face of the COVID-19 outbreak. Well, he said these shops were suffering as business was scarce due to the lack of vehicles on the highway in light of the movement control order.
Pihak pengurusan Lebuh Raya Plus, Aneh, Latar, Max, Prolintas, Kesas, Grand Saga dan Grand Sepadu telah pun bersetuju untuk mengecualikan sewa kedai selama 6 bulan kepada penyewa-penyewa kedai di RNR.
This is the latest decision made by the government to help ease the financial burden of Malaysians who have been under restricted movement since 18 March. The order was later extended for another 2 weeks. The second phase of the MCO is set to begin tomorrow and will last until 14th April. The mechanism in setting up of stalls for this year's Ramadan bazaars in the federal territories will be reviewed to prevent congestion at the stalls in light of the COVID-19 situation. Now, Federal Territories Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said the ministry will work with the relevant parties on this before making an announcement soon. The minister said he understood traders' concerns and would be briefed in 2 or 3 days' time by City Hall in the Putrajaya Corporation on alternatives to the former setup of Ramadan bazaars.
Maka jawapannya bukanlah dengan terus mentiadakan. You don't solve the problem. Problem sebenarnya apa? Bukan bazar Ramadan, tapi the way we organize bazar Ramadan. Too crowded, tak ada crowd control. Satu tempat letak jumlah yang berasal-asal. Maka kita cuba tunekan fikiran kita. Yes, the needs will be met. New guideline, new SOP can always be introduced. Maka barangkali bazar Ramadan mulai tahun ini, kalau satu-satu tempat, kalau dulu ada 50, barangkali 10 saja. Dijarakkan jauh-jauh. Mungkin we have more places. Kerana tak boleh letak satu tempat tu banyak, kita letak di press ini sikit, di press ini sikit, dan kita boleh atur specialization. Okey, untuk kuih muih berbuka puasanya di sini, untuk barang-barang lainnya di sini. Ini semua boleh kita organize.
He was met before observing the disinfection exercise carried out at shops in Precinct 15, Putrajaya. Well, a cleaning and disinfection exercise to contain the spread of COVID-19 around Putrajaya began today. Well, the operation around several private and government agencies would mainly focus on commercial areas and government complexes. Among the agencies involved were Putrajaya Corporation, Fire and Rescue Department, Police Department, Health Ministry and Alam Flora. The disinfection exercise were also carried out at several public and high-risk areas. The integrated operation today mainly focused on commercial areas around Precinct 15. Federal Territories Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa, who was present to observe the integrated operation, expressed his satisfaction and hoped the efforts to enhance public safety and health would continue at all times and not just during the outbreak of an infectious disease.
Jadi saya harap agensi juga buat SOP baru dengan mengambil kira aspek kesihatan dan keselamatan. Kita punya jabatan-jabatan kesihatan juga membantu dengan memberikan garis-garis panduan baru supaya pasca krisis COVID ini kita dapat turut memperbaiki kita punya way of life. How we handle cleanliness, how we handle public health issues, dan how do we handle maintaining public utilities, public facilities misalnya. Jadi ini boleh kita lakukan, ya.
The integrated operation in Putrajaya is expected to go on until this Friday. Well, the Sabah State's healthcare personnel had spent 3 days on Pulau Gaya to conduct prevention of and control COVID-19 infection among the islanders. Its health department JKNS director, Dr. Christina Runde, said the activity was conducted by the Kota Kinabalu Health Office from 28th March until yesterday. Well, in a statement released recently, Dr. Christina said about 65.6% of the villagers have been inspected and 1,600 samples were taken. Now, she also said that the department also extended their appreciation to the support and cooperation given by the National Security Council, the police, army and the People's Volunteer Corps, or RELA, throughout the operation. However, she did not elaborate on the findings of those samples taken from the island, which is about a 30-minute boat ride from the city. Now, as of yesterday, the state recorded 4 new cases, bringing the total of COVID-19 cases there to 201. While 809 are placed at 23 quarantine centers, 6,538 are ordered to do self-quarantine at home. The Sabah Health Director added that there are still 5,567 close contacts under the surveillance by the department, while 971 had passed the 14-day quarantine period. Well, Malaysia's reserves remained usable as at end of February this year, with official reserve assets at $103.396 billion in accordance with the International Monetary Fund's Special Data Dissemination Standard, or IMF SDDS format. Well, in a statement released today, Bank Negara Malaysia said other foreign currency assets amounted to $33.8 million. Now, the central bank also said that for the next 12 months, the predetermined short-term outflows of foreign currency loans, securities and deposits, which include scheduled repayment of external borrowings by the government and the repayment arising from the maturity of foreign currency Bank Negara interbank bills, amounted to $5.296.6 million. Now, the short forward positions amounted to $13.108.3 million as at end of February this year, reflecting the management of ringgit liquidity in the money market. Now, in line with the practice adopted since April 2006, Bank Negara said the data excludes projected foreign currency inflows arising from interest income and the drawdown of project loans amounting to $2,560.4 million in the next 12 months. But the bank said the only contingent short-term net drain on foreign currency assets are government guarantees of foreign currency debt due within 1 year, amounting to $227.2 million. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI, has provided a 70,000 ringgit grant to conduct research on the mutation of COVID-19. Now, the grant's recipient, Malaysia Genome Institute, or Genome Malaysia, has been entrusted to proceed with research and development on the vaccine and antivirus related to COVID-19. Ahmad Adzam Hashim said the institute will conduct the whole genome sequencing and bioinformatics analysis to detect mutations in the genome from COVID-19 samples. The study on the mutation had been conducted for the last few months with cooperation from the Higher Education Ministry to cater for the lack of research laboratories. He said the study on mutation is important in the process to develop vaccine to combat COVID-19 epidemic. MOSTI is also working closely with other ministries, including the Health Ministry and the Communications and Multimedia Ministry.
Big data analysis ini penting sebab apa ni antara lain selain daripada untuk memudahkan penyampaian maklumat yang perlu diketahui oleh pihak awam, selain daripada itu maklumat-maklumat yang lain perlu. Semua maklumat baik maklumat apa ni tentang pergerakan, perbelanjaan dan sebagainya yang memerlukan kerjasama rentas kementerian, kerjasama rentas agensi. Jadi
Women, Family and Community Development Ministry has allocated 22.2 million ringgit worth of essential supplies to those affected by the Movement Control Order, MCO. Now, its Deputy Minister, Dato Sri Zaila Muhammad Yusof, said each parliament constituency nationwide would be given about 1,000 aid kits worth 1,000 ringgit each. Elaborating further, Dato Siti Zaila said these aid kits would be channeled directly to those under the Welfare Department's list of recipients. The list, she said, is being updated from time to time to ensure that no deserving welfare recipients would be left out.
Dengan kerjasama orang ramai dan kerjasama daripada semua pihak, saya yakin insya-Allah kita dapat memberi bantuan yang sebaik mungkin kepada golongan yang terkesan terutamanya, dan insya-Allah kita harapkan ini dapat meringankan beban sebagaimana yang telah disebutkan dinyatakan oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kita, insya-Allah.
She said RELA and the Civil Defence Force APM would help in distributing the aid kits. 16 individuals in Johor who violated the movement control order were fined 1,000 ringgit by Kota Tinggi Magistrates Court today. Now, 7 underage children were also brought to the same court for violating MCO. Now, the accused, aged between 15 and 37 years old, pleaded guilty in front of Magistrate Mazanas Zedin. Now, the case against the juveniles were not tried in the court as it falls under the jurisdiction of the Children's Court. Now, the court proceeding will take place on 11th May, and they were, however, granted bail of 1,000 ringgit each. Well, 9 foreigners and 2 Malaysians were fined 1,000 ringgit each by the Kuala Lumpur Magistrates Court today for breaching the movement control order by jogging in their neighborhood. And Magistrate Muhammad Aizad Abdul Rahim handed down the fine after they admitted to the charges under Rule 7, Subsection 1 of Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases for measures with the infected local areas regulations. Now, they had committed the offence on the evening of 29 March, and the charge carries a maximum fine of 1,000 ringgit or 6 months imprisonment or both if convicted. Now, in observing the movement control order, very few people were allowed into Kuala Lumpur court complex, while members of the media reporting on ongoing cases were only allowed to gather at the entrance gates of the complex, while close to the guard post to wait for information from passing lawyers or prosecutors. Now, the 9 foreigners, comprised of Japanese, Korean, British and Indian nationals, along with 2 locals, were found jogging by a police patrol team in the Mount Kiara area. Now, Kuala Lumpur Police Chief Dato Sri Mazlan Lazim said the 11 men were arrested last week for jogging around Jalan Mount Kiara and Jalan Desa Kiara despite the MCO. Well, he said they were released after police recorded their statements. And Deputy Public Prosecutor Hanis Anisha Jamaluddin prosecuted. A lorry driver was sentenced to 1 month in jail by a magistrate's court in Selayang today after he pleaded guilty to violating the movement control order. PR Yugendran, 26, admitted to violating the MCO, which required him to be within the confines of his home by going out without a reasonable excuse. Now, Yugendran committed the offense on Jalan SJ17 near Gombak at 1:10 a.m. on 20th March. Now, the offense under Rule 3, Subsection 1 of the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases and Measures Within the Infected Local Areas Regulations 2020 carries a maximum fine of 1,000 ringgit or 6 months imprisonment or both if convicted. Now, according to the statement of facts, Yugendran, who was riding a motorcycle, was stopped in a COVID-19 ops by police. The accused tried to flee, but police managed to detain him. When asked why he was out and about, Yugendran said he was, quote-unquote, hanging out with his friend and was on his way home. Now, Magistrate Nick Muhammad Fadli Nick Azlan ordered for the jail time to run from the date of arrest. Well, Yugendran was also charged with a second offense under Section 186 of the Penal Code for voluntarily obstructing a public servant in discharging his duty at the same place and time. Now, the accused pleaded not guilty to the offense. The charge carries a maximum 2-year imprisonment and 10,000 ringgit fine or both if convicted. Now, the court fixed bail at 3,000 ringgit in one surety, and the case is set for mention on 10th June. Well, 48 cases of cheating in the sale of face masks involving a loss of almost 40,000 ringgit have so far been reported in Perak. Now, all the cases involved online transactions. Now, State Commercial Crime Chief Superintendent Hasbullah Abdul Rahman in a statement said the scammers were believed to have duped the victims by offering cheap prices. Now, once the scammers receive the payments, they go missing without a trace. Now, the case is being investigated under Section 420 of the Penal Code for cheating. Superintendent Hasbullah advised the public not to fall prey to such tactics. Well, the announcement of the new date for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games brings much relief to the sports community, in particular athletes who have endured mental stress during the period of uncertainty due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Olympic Council of Malaysia, OCM President Dato Sri Nurza Zakaria said Malaysia is pleased that the postponement has been confirmed sooner than expected. Elaborating further in a statement released, Dato Sri Nurza said OCM fully supports the decision to host the Tokyo Olympic Games from 23rd July to 8th August 2021, as a 12-month postponement will allow all OCM resources to focus on fighting COVID-19 and keeping everyone safe. He also said the postponement would also provide sufficient time for the country's athletes to reboot and return to their peak condition, while OCM will work with the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, and international sports federations to ensure that the Games will be fair and equitable, especially in relation to the qualification process. Now, the Tokyo Olympics will now be held exactly a year from the original dates planned earlier. Well, that concludes this evening's News on 2. In our top story, 14-day compulsory quarantine for Malaysians returning from overseas. Don't forget to wash your hands regularly, practice social distancing, and most of all, let's adhere to the movement control order and just stay at home. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Amin Carlos. Stay tuned to TV2 and have a pleasant evening.